Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, comes packed with a subtitle that makes it obvious Michael Myers was coming back to the franchise. This is exactly what the studio was aiming for after the major backlash they received from horror fans for the previous film in the series, which notoriously focuses on modern-day witchcraft rather than Michael Myers himself. Halloween fans had this silly notion that with the two previous films in the series being slasher films featuring The Shape, that the third would continue, or at least reference the storyline.
Totally.
After negative reviews, it was obvious that Michael Myers was a hot commodity and a bit of a cash cow. So it was time for him to make his big return to the series, and return to the series he did. You know, despite having his eyes shot out, being blown up, and then being roasted over an open fire in Halloween 2. After all of that abuse, you'd think Michael would be totally dead, but that's not the case. Instead, he's simply just been in a coma for the past decade.
Even if by some miracle Michael is conscious, his muscles will be totally useless.
That is, until it's time for him to be transferred, and, well, we know what happens whenever Michael is taken from point A to point B.
You're all right?
Yes, I'm okay.
He's gone. He's gone from here. The evil is gone.
Meanwhile, our new protagonist, Jamie Lloyd, played by the future Scream Queen, Danielle Harris, keeps having nightmares about the boogeyman.
What's the boogeyman?
As a matter of fact, it was.
Now, keep in mind, all of this is in despite of Jamie not even knowing who the hell Michael Myers even is. We do, however, quickly find out that Jamie's been adopted after the death of her mother, Laurie Strode, and her father. 'Cause, you know, sometimes you have to kill off your characters when certain actors or actresses can't or won't reprise their role.
Hey, Mommy.
Yeah.
Is everyone at home okay? With this big white horse, saying you were gonna come and take me back home.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Lucky for little Jamie, Donald Pleasance did reprise his role and returns as Dr. Samuel Loomis. And she may not know it yet, but she's definitely going to need his help after Michael's big escape. You can guess exactly where he's headed and who he's coming for on Halloween night. With all of that being said, let's cut right into this thing, no pun intended, and take a look at 10 things you may have not known about Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. Number 1. Leatherface vs. Michael Myers?
Fight!
The franchise was on hiatus after Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, and no one knew which direction Halloween 4 would even go. However, in 1986, Cannon Films, who had released the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 that same year, had an idea to bring the series back to life. They got in contact with John Carpenter and approached him about doing a crossover film with Leatherface and Michael Myers. Yes, before Freddy vs. Jason, there could have been Michael vs. Leather. Carpenter wasn't interested.
Place your bets!
Number 2. Halloween 4, The Return of John Carpenter? Speaking of John Carpenter, a lot of people believe that he wasn't involved at all with Halloween 4, but that's not entirely true. Carpenter just didn't want more of the same old stuff with Michael Myers slashing around town, so he contacted writer Dennis Etchison, whom had written the novelizations of Halloween 2 and 3. They began ironing out the details of what should be in Halloween 4. Basically, the story would pick up 10 years to the day after the events of Halloween 2, putting the focus on Lindsay Wallace and Tommy Doyle from the original film and how the town of Haddonfield has dealt with the aftermath of the events that took place 10 years prior at the hands of Michael Myers. Since the murders, Haddonfield has banned Halloween, costumes, candy, and horror films.
They should ban Halloween in this town.
This is number one bullshit.
Instead of coming to terms with the incident, they're more focused on trying to suppress everything. This repression of fear would sort of lead to the reemergence of Michael Myers in some sort of psychokinetic way that would disturb the town's tranquility. Producer Mustafa Akkad rejected the script, saying that he wanted something more in the same spirit of the original film.
Always, everyone we do, we always go back, we like to go back to the first one. I mean, that's because that's the success.
This would lead to John Carpenter and Deborah Hill selling their interest in the franchise, and Etchison's script wasn't part of the deal, serving as the final nail in its coffin. Number 3. A witch in the cast? During the casting process, Danielle Harris stood out among some of the competition for the role of Jamie Lloyd, but she wasn't the only standout actress either. Melissa Joan Hart, from Sabrina the Teenage Witch fame, was considered for the role as well. However, Danielle's acting chops and the range of emotions she was able to display was enough for her to lock down the position. Number 4. The original opening. The original opening of the film was going to show us exactly how Dr. Loomis survived the explosion at the hospital.
The opening scene was a shot down the hospital corridor looking at a wall. And it was sort of a beat, and then the explosion. The wall would burst open from that blast, and you would see Dr. Loomis's body flying backwards, kind of in, a flame, and almost right directly at the camera, and then you would cut, so you would know he was blasted out of that room and survived.
However, director Dwight Little says that he didn't want to include this scene because he didn't want to reference the second film due to continuity issues, and that he wanted to recapture the spirit of the original.
We decided only to reference the first movie, and I think the reason was we didn't want to get sort of tied up with a lot of logic police questions about Michael and exactly what happened to Dr. Loomis, but I didn't really want to be influenced artistically by anything other than Halloween 1, which I thought that's what I was really trying to recapture, was the spirit of that first movie.
This is despite the fact that Dr. Loomis clearly has burn marks on his face, which directly references the ending of the second film, and the guard at the beginning of this film mentions Loomis lighting Myers on fire, nearly killing himself in the process.
But his doctor, of all people, shot him 6 times. Then he set him on fire. Both of them nearly burned to death.
So, he seems to have contradicted himself. Therefore, he was either too lazy to put in the extra effort, or more likely, the budget was too tight to pull the scene off properly.
I still wish that we'd gone back and done that shot, because I think it would have been a great tie-in to the continuity of the first film. And I wish we had done that, because I think it would have been a stunning opening for the movie.
Number 5. They used the wrong mask. Par the course for the Halloween franchise, production simply couldn't recreate the look of the original Michael Myers mask. Production ordered multiple masks for filming, but they didn't think to check the masks until they were on set. You can imagine how surprised they were when they opened the package of masks to find 6 Michael Myers masks that had pink skin with white hair. Makeup technician Ken Horn quickly repainted the mask white and dyed the hair brown. However, you can clearly see in certain scenes that the incorrect mask was used during filming. This is particularly noticeable in the school scene. Dwight Little admits to this mistake and attributes it to a tired crew on a rigid filming schedule and a lack of budget for reshoots.
I really think that was a mistake, and had we more time or money, we probably should have gone back and reshot it.
Number 6. 11 Days in Hell. Writer Alan McElroy was more than happy to pen a script for Halloween 4. However, he was going to have to do it under dire circumstances. With the Writers Guild of America strike on the horizon, McElroy only had 11 days to finish his script, which he was able to do. He was pretty lucky, too, because the strike that took place is the longest in WGA history, lasting 155 days.
Whenever you come in here and interrupt me, you're breaking my concentration. You're distracting me, and it will then take me time to get back to where I was.
Number 7. Michael Myers vs. Freddy Krueger. Ellie Cornell also tried out for a role in another famous horror franchise, as she auditioned for the role of Alice in A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master, but lost out to Lisa Wilcox. This isn't a huge surprise considering over 600 people auditioned for that role. However, what is crazy is that it's been said that Wilcox had also auditioned for the role of Rachel in Halloween 4, but lost out to Cornell. Number 8. The on-set drama. While on set, producers stepped in, arguing that they wanted the eye holes of the mask to be bigger. Makeup technician Ken Horn said that this wouldn't be possible while filming because the adjustments would require the use of fresh glue, which wouldn't have enough time to settle and would cause the stuntman wearing the mask to faint and injure himself. This turned into a big argument between Horn, stuntman Tom Morga, and the producer. Unfortunately, this led to both Ken Horn and Tom Morga being fired from the production. However, lucky for Mr. Horn, one of his buddies from Fangoria magazine was on the set, as they were doing a write-up on Halloween 4. His buddy talked to the producer, telling him that if he didn't rehire Horn immediately, that the film would receive no promotion from Fangoria magazine. Within 30 minutes, Horn was hired back by the producer. Stuntman Tom Morga wasn't as lucky and was replaced by George P. Wilbur, who would take on the role of Michael Myers for the remainder of the shoot.
Yeah!
Number 9. The unused school scene. When Jamie and Dr. Loomis are in the school, there was going to be a scene where Jamie is hiding under a teacher's desk and Michael Myers begins moving student desks out of the way as he approaches the teacher's desk, searching for her. Due to time constraints, this scene was never shot. However, the idea lived on throughout the years and was actually used a decade later in Halloween H2O. Number 10. The roof is on fire. Speaking of scenes that didn't make it into the movie, the original rooftop chase scene was going to be a bit more hectic. Originally, Sheriff Meeker and Myers would battle it out in the basement of the house, which would lead to them accidentally catching the house on fire. Meeker would also die in this battle, rather than blasting away at Myers with a shotgun near the end of the film. With the fire starting in the basement and the locked doors downstairs, it would force Jamie and Rachel to seek higher ground, eventually leading them to go out onto the roof, which would be on fire as they try to escape the clutches of Myers. Well, Halloween night is over and little Jamie has survived, but the situation with her stepmother isn't looking so hot. Either way, there's always next year, and this time, Michael is going to be out for revenge. So make sure you stick around for our next video, 10 Things You Didn't Know About Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers. Until next time, my friends.
What are you, deaf? Don't try that Halloween shit with me.